no, there is no planet B. Do you know why I find it funny? Is that in a recent DC Comics, Superman attended a protest, and one of the people sitting literally next to him had this in hand. There is no planet B. And he had this sitting next to a Kryptonian. I mean, granted, Krypto exploded, but there are other planets within the DC universe. In fact, there are multiverses. This is what happens when you bring real-world politics into comic books, and this is what happens when you hire activists rather than people that want to write entertainment. And it's kind of sad. Now, what I find interesting is the vast number of people that has signed this. I mean, clearly a great concern, because I've seen this petition being shared in the media. This is just how much grassroots it has backing it. Like, this is how many average people are pushing for this. And it's also interesting that all of the vegan activists, all of a sudden, it's like they're having everything that they believe to be confirmed by big business. It's like, oh, yes, you should be vegan. You know, like, throughout human history, like, you read the fucking Bible, chat. You read the fucking Bible. What was that written? Like, you don't have to be a Christian in order to follow this logic. You can be a Muslim, you can be an atheist, you can be a Jew, but you still believe that the Bible was written by someone. Like, we all agree with that, right? And it was written a very long time ago. It's an ancient text. So, for thousands of years, people have been eating meat. How do you know? Read the Bible. Like, it talks about fasting. What is fasting? Deciding to abstain from eating meat. Right? I mean, the Muslims don't eat pork. It means that people eat other meats, but, like, pork is not one of them. I mean, if my ancestor lived like this, and they had a good life, I'm pretty sure that if I lived the way my ancestors did, it guarantees success. The climate and wildlife extinction crisis are getting worse, and will continue to do so until the government steps in. Isn't that fascinating, chat? Every single problem, real or imaginable, can only be solved if the government steps in. Racismus. How do you solve racismus? People are making racismus jokes. People are posting racismus. How do you say? The government needs to step in. Equality. People are living under inequity. Some people are rich, some people are poor. How do we solve this? The government steps in. Every single problem. COVID. People are coughing. How do we? The government steps in. People are not vaccinating. The government steps in. Every single problem. It's almost like the government wants to step in and is seeking justification. Isn't that more logical? Like, the government always wants to step in. It's just like they need a reason to, because normally people don't want the government to step in. I mean, I looked at the World Economic Forum, which is a conspiracy website. Okay, I'm calling it. The World Economic Forum is a far-right conspiracy website. I subscribe to them in order to learn a little bit about economics, because I'm passionate in the subject. But they talk about eating the bugs and tracking people and microchips into people. That's a conspiracy theory, right? Like, the World Economic Forum with Klaus Schwab, they are conspiracy theorists, chat. And they're talking about monitoring the piss to see how much protein intake people have. And it's like, let's monitor the piss. I'm thinking, like, okay, so when the government steps in, there is nothing that you do that the government thinks it shouldn't be involved in, including when you take a shit or when you take a piss. Like, every aspect of your life. It's almost like there used to be an ideology like that. Everything within the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state. I forgot to coin that ideology, but it seems to have been a really good one, because every government official now wants that ideology. Like, they really like that. It's like, yeah, why shouldn't the government be involved? Why shouldn't they care about X, Y, and Z? So yes, the government needs to step in. And we saw what happens in the Netherlands when the government steps in. We see what happens in Italy when the government steps in. We saw what happens with the yellow vest when the government steps in. I'm telling you this. You know, the only good thing about it is that when the hunger comes, and if they keep doing it, the hunger will come. Because that's what they're trying to accomplish, right? Like, they want people to starve. Eastern Europeans like myself are used to the famine. Like, we lived through it. We know how it's very bad. Okay, but we used to. I think the social trauma, like the left likes to put, the social trauma of the West, when the hunger does arrive there, is going to be something very interesting to behold. With record-breaking temperatures seen across UK last week, and by the way, this is another thing that I find interesting, right? If you go and you talk with an internet activist and you tell him it's like, oh, look, what are you talking about? Rising temperatures. Like, the weather here is fine. Oh, no, that's the weather. That's not the climate. That's what they say, right? Like, that's the weather. That's not the climate. But when they're making the arguments on record-breaking temperatures, like, motherfucker, that's the weather. That's not the climate. Am I wrong? Am I not following the science? It's never been clear that we need to act now to prevent global and ecological crisis. This is a time when China says fuck you. I just want to remind people, you know, like all your industry is made in China. So they're polluting over there and they're not polluting over here. The urgency to act, coupled with controversial debate arising in the hospitality sector, suggests displaying carbon calculations on menus is significantly more important to the health of the UK and the planet. So they're a little behind the curve because, again, the far-right conspiracy website, the World Economic Forum, and actually MasterCard. Like, MasterCard had the program on its website, which is voluntary now, like only people who want it, that when you make transaction, it calculates your carbon. So when you buy food, it gives you like a carbon price. This is moving us back to the Soviet system that I lived in, where you had a ration for food that you could only buy like 1 kilogram of chicken per month. 1 kilogram of beef per month, 5 liters of gasoline per week, right? So that system existed. Like, you're not reinventing the way, you're not creating anything new. You just have the technology now to make it more digital and more friendly with a happy QR code on top of it. But they have done this in the Soviet Union. Their lifestyle collapsed. Their economy collapsed. Like, it's not a good system. Given just eating one beef burger can generate as much as 3 kilograms of carbon per serving, that's the equivalent of driving the average UK petrol car for over 10 miles. What I don't understand is why do they start with the little guy and why don't they start with the politician? I mean, when is the last time did you say that, okay, so the politician needs to start eating the bugs as an example for the rest of us? Like, I want to see, you know, when I look at television, I want to see the prime minister eating the bugs to set an example for me. It's like, if I see it, it's like, okay, well, if the politician does it, you know, clearly it's something important. I should do it as well. I want to see politicians not driving planes. Why do they need to fly around? Why do politicians need to fly around in the age of Skype? I mean, we have been told that you can sit at home and you don't have to go to work. Why do politicians have to go to work? Like, what do they benefit from having their physical, corporeal presence somewhere when they can just open a Skype call? Or Zoom call, sorry, I'm a little bit more of a boomer. Right, so basically what they want is that when you go to a restaurant, you would see like all the carbon that you get. I'm guaranteeing to you that I want this to happen. Like, I would love if restaurants actually displayed the carbon intake, because I will tell you, for sure, there are people fed up with this shit. Like, there are people who want to get to work and they find like Extinction Rebelling blocking their street or whatever. There are people who notice the gas prices going up and politicians saying that's a good thing. So they're fed up with this. And you're going to have people that will order the most carbon expensive product in those restaurants out of spite. Like, even if they don't want it, it's like, oh, I need the carbon, give it to me. There are people in the US which did the same thing. It was called, I believe, rolling coal. Like, they would buy expensive cars, and it would be out of their body that they would just pump as much smoke as possible to piss off the liberals. That thing exists in society. Like, last poll that I have seen, granted, it was in the US, like, less than 1% of people consider that global warming is the most important thing. That's how poorly it resonates with the plebs. I mean, sure, on Twitter, on social media, on other places, yes, of course, it's a horrible thing. But when you actually go on the street, people care more about putting food on the table than they care about these noble concepts. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.